welcome to Scrappin with Sheri, Father's Day edition. Now we just passed Father's Day, but I wanted to do this layout kind of as a tribute to our fathers and in honor of my new grandson who got dedicated on Father's Day at their home church. So I'm going to be using the virtual crop sketch number 3 to do this, and I felt like it was just a nice sketch. It includes lots of spaces for pictures. And I pulled some different things. These, I believe, are both from Welcome Home. And I liked those. Even though this has kind of a florally look to it, I feel like it's fine for a little boy. And I pulled the navy to kind of correspond with that. Now, these 2 white pages are just going to be my backgrounds to build all of this on, because there's a lot going on in this that I'm going to be piecing together. So I'm going to start with the easiest part to me. And that's these big spots across the bottom. And they are 12 by 6. And I want to use my stripe for that. And I want the stripe to go this way. So all I've got to do is cut this in half at 6 inches. And that'll go right across both of the bottom pages. Or the bottom of both pages, I guess I should say. So we've got that part. And then when I look up at the top, we've got a big area here, and it doesn't really tell us what that is, and it doesn't really tell us what this is. Well, I know based on this that it's about a 6, and then this is 6 by 9, so it looks like a 6 by 6 square right there. And let's see if the measurements are the same here. This is going to be a 6 by 9, so yeah, we need 2 6 by 6 squares, and those will go in the top right and left corners. This is not a directional piece, so I don't have to worry so much about which way I'm cutting it. If it were directional, you'd need to pay a lot more attention to that. These are going to be going in opposite corners. And then I need this 6 by 9 in the middle. And something I don't typically do is use cardstock for that kind of thing, mainly because I like the patterns, but most of this is going to be covered with pictures anyway. And I decided it's fine. So I'm going to cut my 9-inch first. And take that off. And then all I have to do is cut this in half at 6 inches. And then we'll be ready to do most of our piecing. I want to go ahead and do the piecing before I add borders and strips, because I've got a lot of odds and ends pieces of paper that I'm going to use for those parts. And I want to see what our colors and patterns are looking like before we add all of it. These are going here. These here. And then these along the bottom. And let's see. This is overlapping that. So we need to put our stripes down first. Glad I checked that out on the sketch, or I would have done it wrong. Now, I don't know if you know this about me. Blue is my very favorite. I do everything I can in blue. But I also love a good stripe. And this, I discovered a few minutes ago when I was looking for paper for this layout. I have about 6 sheets of it. So, obviously, I love it so much that I keep not using it because I'm saving it for something special. And what could be more special than the pictures of my grandbaby's dedication? So I thought it was time to pull out that special paper and go with it. Now, I don't know if my background sheet is sized incorrectly or if my cutting is sized incorrectly. But I'm going to scoop this one in to butt up against that navy cardstock. And then I can trim off that outer edge if necessary. Now remember, there's a paper variation it's a standard variation, and it's okay. It's a little annoying, but it is okay in the scheme of things. And then let me go ahead and do this one. It mirrors that. Now, that's a nice layout as is with nothing extra with it right now, especially once I get the pictures on. But I did want to go ahead and pull some floral. And I know some of you will think I'm strange for pulling floral when it's a little boy layout, but I felt like this pulled our colors together nicely. And because my daughter and the granddaughter and all of those were in the pictures, I thought the floral works fine. So this is all I have left of this. This is a 12-inch strip. So all I'm going to do is just even that out and cut it off. So it's really a full strip. I love this. This is probably one of my favorite papers ever. And then this one, I'm going to need to go across the bottom of 2 pages. So I'm just going to use the 0 centering feature on this trimmer. And I'm lining up close to 1 inch here, close to 1 inch here. And I'm just making sure I've got my spacing the same on both sides. And then I'm just going to cut it right through the middle. And they should be very close to the same size. Looks pretty good. And according to the sketch, these will go right along the bottoms. And then this is going to go right up here. And I'll just need to cut that in half at 6 inches. Now, as I'm cutting, talking, looking, thinking, I almost feel like this needs something to break it up, to pull it apart from this background strip. And I could do that a couple of different ways. I did have a little bit of this paper that's left from, oh, I forgot the name of it. It was one of the secret boxes that had the really, oh, Grand Times. That's what it was, Grand Times. But I do think navy is going to be prettier there. And it won't compete so much with the background I've got going on. Now, one thing I'm noticing as I'm talking, looking, thinking, this is just a hair bigger on this side. And I do think that's going to bother me because they're right across from each other. So I'm going to see if I can trim that hair. And this is not always easy, but easier with this trimmer than anything else we've ever had. Let's see if that's any better. Still a touch off. So let me grab my repo tape. And I'm just going to put some of that there to keep this from sliding. And then I should be able to get a better cut. Hopefully more even and more accurate that way. I have a feeling what I'm going to end up doing is cutting off too much. And then I'm going to have to trim the other. And I'm going to hate myself before this is over. But we'll give it a shot. Well, that's definitely closer than it was. And we're going to go with that. Now, the beauty of using the repo tape to do that is you can just wipe it off your trimmer with your fingers. And it peels right up. All right, so now we know that this is just a touch less than an inch. I'm going to go about 1.25 inches for these little borders I'm doing around that. I could do this with a decorative blade and very likely would have if I had taken the time to think that through a little bit more. But I think against all this stripe down here, it's going to be fine, even with a regular blade. Now, I just need to add these to that. And if you're looking at the sketch, it doesn't show this. It just shows a border. You could do that with border punches, border cartridges. You could do that with a pre-made border. You could do it with sticker borders. There are so many ways you could do this. I just elected to do this flower just to make this a little bit softer, to bring in some floral for the girls in the picture. And the only reason I'm matting this is because I don't want it to fade into those stripes quite so much. So I'm adding extra steps. You know I'm really good at that. And I'm just going to butt these two up against each other and add this. I'm going to keep it pretty low. I'm going to leave a little bit of the stripe showing along the bottom, but not very much. And if you're with me very much, typically the navy cardstock is just a touch longer than other cardstocks, and sometimes you have to finagle it a little bit or cut it off because for whatever reason it seems to be just a little bit longer. All right, so we've got those borders. And then to do the borders across the top, I think I will actually just put those straight on that navy. It'll kind of mimic the look we've got down here, but I don't have to add anything else to it because our background on the top is already navy. And I just want to line those two up. And I think this is a really pretty layout. Now, I am having a little problem because that's just a touch short on that side, but, you know, that's why we have embellishments. So, let me look at what we've got on the layout. We've got the bottom section, we've got these borders, we've got this border through the middle. The only thing we're really missing is the little borders right here on these sides. And I've still got a little bit of this floral, but I don't love it there. I think what I'm going to do instead is go back to my navy and just cut a 1-inch strip of that that'll go on either side. So we just need a little 1-inch strip. And here again, I could do that with border strips, stickers. I could do it with so many different things. I'm just keeping this one really very simple. And I don't even need that whole strip. I could probably half it, but I don't want to end up like I did up there where it didn't quite match up. And I'm going to split the difference there so it's not too much over the top and too much over the bottom. So I'm just going to kind of line that up on this 6-inch mark right here. Well, I say that, it's not lining up very easily. All right. I've also got these little diamondy designs to help with that. And then I'm just going to rip that and tuck it underneath. And that one's done. And we'll do the same thing on this side. Line it up so we get it on the 6-inch mark, kind of centered. So I've got that. Let's compare them side by side this way and see how we are. Yep, we're looking pretty good there. All right. So our next step is just to add the pictures to this. And, you know, that's the part I love. Now, we do have some mats, and I think I'll go ahead and cut those just because we're probably going to need those as well. Now, fortunately, we've got all this little 3x3s, 4 little 3x3s, and they're going to come out of where we cut this because this is already 3 inches. So how perfect is it that I just cut 4 little 3-inchers and I've got all those squares for those photos at the bottom. Now, if you can't make your photos work to make these little bitty squares, then don't cut these little 3x3s. Leave them a little bit larger. And then we've got 2 4x6 mats. Let's see how tall this is. I'm going to cut this at 4. That'll leave me a wide strip to do another border if I want to. And then cut it in half at 6. And I've used my paper the most efficiently in that way. So let's go ahead and stick these down. And I'm going to stick these with repositionable tape until I get these pictures developed, because I'm still working on that part, and I will add them before you see the whole video. But as of right now, mats are going on with repo. And I like things kind of straight. So I think I'm going to keep these straight rather than crooked. There's some overlap there, but there'll be a picture there. And then I want to make this pretty much a mirror image. And I know some of you watch these on your TV and it's big, and you're probably seeing this area right here that doesn't look very nice. I'm going to trim that off with my 12-inch trimmer momentarily. So don't think that I haven't noticed that and I'm going to leave it, because I am not. And then we'll just line these up along the bottom, pretty much in the same space we did the other side. To me, sometimes that's the hardest part, is doing the mirror image, because you kind of need things to line up correctly and evenly and the same, and sometimes that's not as easy as it looks. Sometimes you would be better off to specifically try to make them very different. All right, let me grab that trimmer one more time and get that edge off. And then I'm going to show you one embellishment I'm going to put on for right now, because I know exactly where I want it to go and why. All right. So because this is a very special day in the life of our family, I wanted to use this sticker. This came from the Grand Times Secret Box collection. Every family has a story. Welcome to ours. And our faith and raising our children to know and love God is important to us. So I think that's a big part of our family story, and I wanted to include this sticker because of that. Now I am going to be using one of the bigger foam squares for this, and one is plenty. And I'm going to add it right up there where we had the little glitch, where things didn't match up quite right. And that takes care of where it didn't cover up quite right. And because I did the foam square right in the middle, my picture can still slide up under the edge of that. So here this layout is until I get these pictures developed. But look at the picture following the video and at the beginning of the video, and you'll see how this actually plays out completely when it's done. So until I see you next time, happy scrapping.